Today, we are going to talk with Ilya Isaev, a seasoned technology leader and innovator with over 16 years of experience in software development and engineering management. As the former chief technology officer at companies like Yojee and ZEN Rooms, Ilya has played a pivotal role in driving innovation, building scalable systems, and delivering impactful technology solutions in industries ranging from logistics to e-commerce. Ilya's expertise spans a wide array of technical and leadership skills, including Kubernetes, deployments, cloud-native solutions, and microservices architecture. While at Lazada Group, he led a diverse team of 50 senior engineers, implemented advanced system handling 7,000 packages daily, and transitioned legacy systems to modern technologies like Golang, significantly improving efficiency and reducing costs. Beyond his technical accomplishments, Ilya is deeply committed to fostering high-performing teams through agile practice, continuous delivery, and mentorship. His dedication to excellence is reflected in his academic achievements, including a master's degree in computer science from the University of Liverpool. In this episode, we will dive into Ilya's remarkable journey through the tech world, explore his strategies for building resilient systems and teams, and hear his thoughts over the future of technology in logistics and beyond. Join us to welcome Ilya Isaev.
Hey, Nate, pleasure to be here. It's nice to see you. We had a long experience together working for Lazada. It was a nice and interesting time, man. Happy to see you again.
Yes, that's right. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation. And it's really good to talk to you. And this leads me to the first question, Ilya. What moment in your life defined who you are today?
Uh, the most important moment as a technology leader, why actually I shifted to technology. I remember the time I used to be a student long time ago. It was 2004. I was studying chemistry in university. I thought like I will be a chemist one day, but I used to live with two guys in the same apartment. They were students as well. And the first time in my life, I saw they just use the computer, and in front of me, they use the technology HTML, and based on HTML, they just use the symbols there, just type something, and based on this text, they could convert it to the graphical interface, and that was like a magic when you can describe something, and out of the text you can get the website, and after that you actually can click on the links, and things will start happening and so on. When I saw it the first time, for me it was like a magic, and I got so excited. I started learning everything related to web technologies. The first thing, of course, I learned the HTML, how to create a simple website. But after that, I opened own company to create websites. And one of the things, what I needed to do is to create a web shop. And web shop is already much more complicated things where you need to send the form for the order. You need to understand what kind of backend should be behind. And I didn't know how to do it. Like I didn't have anyone around to explain. You need some kind of backend technologies. I didn't know. I just started. I remember a really strange example. I just wanted to use JavaScript for this one, and through the JavaScript, I opened an email client which would send the order to the client. But pretty soon I realized it's a creepy solution. It's a complete crap. So what I wanted to do next, I just started asking around, what should I do next, guys? Like, what kind of technology I need to use? So I found out what actually PHP back then could solve those problems, could create a backend for you. And actually, bit by bit, I started learning PHP, databases, and other things, Linux, and so on. And I think that was a starting point which defined who am I today. My friends, one of them became a yoga teacher. One of them, he used to be a really cool designer. He could draw things without Photoshop, just using the paper and the pen, and he could create awesome pictures. And he was able to transfer all of the details into the picture. That was so precise.
I
So
see.
one of the names Anton, and another one Nick. I hope maybe they will hear that one and they will remember.
Okay. As you mentioned, you was living with some people, and through them you get to know more about this technology, and you get very impressed about internet and putting a website and all of those things. I would like to understand more about e-commerce because I remember back in there we have only one player that is still in here. We're talking about Amazon, and we didn't have much about e-commerce, right? Not even tools or even frameworks or even open projects for that. Could you say a little bit more about it?
That's actually true. In 2004, it was nothing on the market. Basically, if you want to start your own project, you need to understand how to create a Linux machine for you. You need to set up everything by yourself. It's not like now when we have a Docker and we just click several magic buttons and everything appears for us. Back then, you need to spend tons of the time to learn how things are working before you're actually able to do something. That is a complicated part. I do remember the project name called Denver. The idea of the project was they combine PHP, MySQL, and Linux server, but they kind of wrap it inside for the Windows. But it was able for you to start the machine pretty quickly. But before that, I didn't know about Denver, so I spent the whole time to understand how to set up the machine by myself, how to set up the database, and it was everything was kind of complicated because, for example, if you didn't set up, let's say, the text properly, so the whole database would crash, or if you configure it not properly, so everything would crash, and we would not be able to even understand why it's crashing.
Yes, this reminds me something that I would like to share with you. I was back in their time, the same as you, but in 2004, I was already in the university and I was doing computing engineering. And I remember something that maybe you do as well. It's called OS Commerce.
No, I'm not sure what is that.
OS Commerce was one of the first, I would say, open source projects for e-commerce.
I see. The web shop, what I mentioned, so I wrote everything by myself, so I didn't know what they had any solutions on the market.
What has been your greatest struggle and how did you overcome it?
The greatest struggle, what I mentioned, for example, it's a mentorship. I would say it's the main struggle for me. It's a mentorship. All my life, I wanted to have a mentor around who would help to explain where you have problems, what kind of way you can pick, and so on. Unfortunately, I didn't have anyone. And the things what I mentioned before when I started creating the web shop, so I just asked people around, and I ended up with books. Instead of mentor, what I ended up with, it's a book, and book actually can give you knowledge, but it will not give you the experience when you actually start experience things without a mentor. You need to experience everything by yourself. You need to experience the problems. You need to understand how to solve it, and sometimes it's not the optimal solution to solve those problems. So I would say you're wasting more time learning by yourself instead of you would do with mentor.
I see. So in the way that you are mentioning is guidance, right? You need to figure out by yourself instead of have guidance like go in this direction or go in that direction, or what you are thinking, what you are looking for is on that way, something like that, right?
Yeah, correct. So what I mentioned from the beginning, I used to wanted to be chemist. So I started studying chemistry, and there in the university, of course, people can explain to you. But because I started focusing on new technologies, I abandoned the university and started focusing on technologies itself. But at the same time, at the university, you could have the mentor or you could have the guidance. Let's say if it would be IT related to university, but unfortunately, no. Again, I didn't have it.
Yes, I understand what you say. And there's one more thing that I would like to add. Back in that time, and even today, we was talking about emerging technology. We was talking about e-commerce and was mind-blowing. For example, how would you integrate with payments and all of those things, right? Back in that time. A lot of things in that time requires people like you, pioneers, because they have to be built. No one was in there. No one was doing it yet. And we didn't have the today the huge communities that we have, and not only communities, but also we have a lot of build-up things which we can use today. I think you had done very well back then.
Thank you for that.
Along the way, and in your career and your personal life, who has been the most influential person in your life, and in what way?
I would say I'm a bit romantical person, and the person who I would pick it would be Steve Jobs. I would say it's a bit banal person because a lot of people would pick him, but I want to focus why he is important for me. Because if we look into his biography, he actually achieved a lot of things in his life, and one of the big things, he built a company called Apple. And he was pushed out from an own company. But before that, actually, sorry, let me focus on the first step. When he was in Apple, no one believed what some computers like Apple people would want it. But he keep pursuing the idea, keep pushing people around what you actually you need to trust it. We will start using it. It will be everywhere. No one believed in that one back then. But actually, he was able to convince people to start using this computer, and that computer become one of the top companies in the world. And the next step, what is important for me in his career, is when he lost his job in Apple, he was pushed out from an own company. He didn't give up. He created another company called Next, and continue investing in that company, and continue investing in his idea. And even after that, he created a Pixar, which is not related to technologies at all. And I think it's a good idea to look into that person, because every time when we struggle or we fail, some people trying to stop, but actually this is not a stopping moment. It's something where we can learn and continue. That is why he's very important for me. And the last point, what I wanted to mention, the way how he communicated with his subordinates, or maybe with partners. He used to love to go outside to have meetings with them outside, just walking. Because you are not in the office, you don't have any meeting rooms, no one will bother you, you don't have any phone with you. You just walk and talk, and you deeply focus on the conversation. You're really deeply trying to understand what the person is saying to you. And that is the awesome thing, because sometimes we are in an environment trying to do things really quick, okay, let's finish it, and so on. But for him, he kind of like stopped the time, let's talk, let's understand each other, and after that, we will decide what to do next. I think it's an awesome experience. Actually, I use it in my career when with my subordinates, instead of having a meeting in the office, I just would take a walk and discuss the same things. And I would say it's more beneficial because we focus on each other on the.
I understand. And if I'm not mistaken, the person who you are talking about, for the ones who are listening to us, is actually Steve Jobs. And he have not only the drive, as you mentioned, and the focus into innovation, he also have a very interesting way to approach problems. And he explained that as peeling an onion, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
I think that part, I don't like everything about him. So the one of the things, what he done actually, the way how he managed people, he was really pusher. And yes, they achieved the targets, but people were really stressful, not comfortable to work with him, as a feedback from the people who worked with him before. So as a manager, I think it's not a really good part. And about peeling the onion, it's just like iterations. We just need to have an idea, and we can remove pieces bit by bit, but understand what is there in the end.
Exactly. Thank you for that. And how do you define success? I mean, do you feel you have somehow achieved it?
That is an interesting question. So before that, I would shift it from a personal side to actually how we define success and what is it in our life. Because sometimes we have a dream, we want to have something, but we never try to put the steps like milestones or something, how we are going to achieve a dream. For example, I want to be a cosmonaut, but what steps I need to do for that? No one trying to dive into details. So for me, success is something what it should be measurable. Because if you want to become someone without understanding what is it, you will never achieve that target. Let's say you will never be successful. But if you define who you want to be and what steps you need to do for that one, and if those steps, most importantly, are measurable, so we can measure and understand are we successful by the end of the day or no. The same I'm trying to use in the working environment when we have any system or the way how people are working, or I'm trying to measure everything. And the data is actually helping us to understand many things. Not like one metric, but many metrics can combine and give you the full picture of what is happening and help you to define the success. For me, in some points, personally, I do believe I'm a successful person in terms of career path. So if I look back for a long time back, I wanted to be a CTO one day. So that target already achieved. So if we're talking about personal stuff, so yes, I would say I'm successful.
Oh, it's very good to hear that. Congratulations, Ilya.
Thank you.
And you remind me something when you was talking about, you have the start point is pretty much where you are, and you have the goal where you would like to be. And that is where come the roadmap, as you mentioned, right? Usually we do not spend much time building a roadmap and figure out how are we going to get there. And you also remind me something very important. I just don't remember the author, but it's someone who says, what you can measure, you can improve.
I know the citate, but the site, but I don't know who was it, unfortunately. Yeah.
Good, you remind me all of those things. This is really nice. And now I have a very hot potato for you. Are you ready for this hot potato?
Sure, let's go. Let's bake it.
I would like to understand more, as you just mentioned, that you feel yourself as a person who had achieved your dreams, and this is really good. And how do you define leadership, and what makes a good leader in your perspective?
Of course, we have academic definition. As a good leader, you need to lead people instead of you shouldn't be a boss and all things like that. But for me personally, I would mention another thing today. For me, it's trust. Trust is the most important thing for the leadership. If you don't have a trust in environment, it doesn't matter who you want to be. You want to be a leader, you want to be a boss. Without trust, people will not be doing what we asking them to do. They will not just trust you. They will find tons of the excuse why they shouldn't do it. But if they trust you, they actually try to help you. And the next thing after the trust, what I would mention, it's important. The next step is we need to build the communication. We need, if we have a good communication and we have a trusting environment, we can move to the next step where we can lead people to any target, any goal we want, and so on. So those are, I would say, essentials for me, where I would say communication and trust, which will lead us to the good leadership. And be honest as well. So sometimes they want to hide things. Sometimes they want to like say, as a managers, we don't want to say things we want to hide a lot. We're thinking like, oh, maybe people will not understand. Actually, no one is dumb. Everyone is smart in their own way. And if we give the information, people will be more prepared. I remember one time in my experience when we needed to let some people go, and people were saying it's not a good idea to tell them in advance. But actually, what I did, I told them in advance what this one is going to happen. In 2 months, we will let you go, and everyone stay in the company. No one ran away immediately. No one. Everyone understand what is going on, and they had a lot of time to find a new job, to prepare, and because you were honest with them, they tried to help you as well to finish everything what they need to finish in those 2 months and help you do not fail, let's say.
You brought a very interesting and important example here. The way that you say right now, in my mind, I can see that you was working in an environment which you was part, and of course you provided this environment for your team members where you have psychological safety, first of all. As you mentioned, you build trust, and also you had a good communication with the persons working with you. I also understand, and I have been in companies that they do not communicate well with people. That is intentional. That is exactly because of the environment which we understand is a very aggressive environment, is not an environment where they build trust. And also somehow they think people, they are meant to do something not good. And somehow they forgot they are dealing with professionals and adults. So thank you. Your example is really good. I hope you never worked in a more aggressive environment. I trust that you always have been in good environments which you can openly talk about things, and it won't have any damage for the company or for the persons working in there.
Actually, unfortunately, in my experience, I used to have a different environment where it was completely poison environment, and from another side, I had the company where, let's say, everyone will like a family, like a friends, really nice to each other, helping each other, and so on. So I do have completely different experience. I would not to focus on the details who is who, but uh, when you actually working in a toxic poison environment, I would say it's so complicated. As you said, you're already dealing with professionals. Why you need to deal with professionals in that way? Of course, they will give you some output, but they will give you the minimum what you're asking from them. And if we have the opposite, people will be willing to help, so they will give you maximum. So as a company, I think it's a big fail. If you look at the business perspective, so it's maybe not a good word to say, but people are resources for the company, and people are creating some value. And I would say, as a manager, so it's a big fail. What you actually, the ways how you're asking people to help instead of helping, you're losing a lot of resources. So I would say it's not really nice when you're trying to create that environment. Yes, unfortunately, it's happening, but I would say it's affecting everyone. And by the end of the day, it's hitting managers back as well. If you are toxic, if you are creating problems for people, so by the end of the day, you can end up in a problem.
Yes, as you mentioned, it's about people. So it comes down to business. It comes down to not only performance, but finally the customers, which are paying for what you guys are building and producing. And considering this kind of not only environment, but also your experience working in good places where you can have a very healthy and high performance environment, how do you handle conflict or disagreements?
The first thing about the conflicts, the most important, I would say, it's we need to listen to what is happening. So I can take the example. Let's say two persons are fighting, and they're fighting over the solution. So one of the good things I think is split them first and listen each of the parts first. And when I say listen, it's not just a word. You really need to deeply understand what is moving them towards the decision what they want to make, or the idea what they're pushing, why they fight in the first place. For that one, you need to have empathy to understand why and what people experience, and you need to collect it from both sides first. And in that case, you will be able to understand what both of them wants to do or wants to have, and this one will help you to understand the middle ground, some kind of like common ground where we can negotiate and find the best for each other. Of course, it will not be ideal for each specific person, but at least we can solve the conflict by finding that common ground. But again, if we are trying to dive into the discussion without understanding people, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You might create a lot of problems instead of solving it. You might bring your own opinion, and instead of helping, we would have three angles of the conflict instead of two originally.
Yes, you're right. And I remember through my career, sometimes when the person in a leadership position trying to handle a conflict was actually creating the conflict that was not in there because most was based on this person impression of whatever was happening, right? And here comes something very interesting that I have been using for many years, and most probably you already did. So every time I notice there's a kind of conflict, and of course people let me know, because again, first thing, I will never guess anything. People have different ways not only behave, but also talk to each others and things like that. So first of all, I totally ignore those things. If someone come and say that is happening, okay, I will just suggest people, of course, I'll be there in the beginning, but I'll suggest them to, just go hang out, drink something. If you like juice, tea, beer, just spend some time together and talk. That's all. Because I notice in time that usually when you have conflicts is because people do not spend much time together. And once you spend enough time together, you understand the other side. You see that the other person is not that different than you. It's not a alien. It's not something that is outsmarting you or someone that is dumb. It's exactly the opposite. It's pretty much you, but in a different perspective with a totally different set of options and choices. And it's very interesting. I mean, it's very nice.
Yeah, totally agree with you. It's actually this part is very interesting topics. I had many conflicts in my life what I need to handle in the environment. As I originally started managing people, I was totally wrong. I was like kind of trying to, from a boss perspective, like okay, so guys, you have to just solve it, but it never work. And bit by bit, you understand you need to have a different approach, and actually. And one of the things what I would say for that one is important as well. When you're trying to solve the conflict, for example, if you're talking about conflict for your subordinates, sometimes it's a good idea to open up from your side and say why you need to solve it, why this one is stopping some project or what is going on, how it's affecting you. Not to try to bring your idea like, okay, guys, let's go that direction again, but why it's a problem for you as well. Kind of share and. If people see this is a problem for you, they would try to help as well. If you open and try to explain, like, okay, guys, I need to solve that somehow, so let's find a common ground. Sometimes it's kind of let's say, wake up call.
Yes, I totally agree with what you said. I think that you most probably have a dozen of cases which you help it, you handle it, and you take care of. And it's a very important part, at least for me, it's a very important part of our daily activities because any kind of conflict can deteriorate the environment, and the way that as a leader you behave as well can influence in a negative way. So I'm very thankful that you have been handling this in a really cool way, as you just explained it. And considering those things, how do you want to be remembered?
How I want to be remembered? Like, good question. So, actually, how I want to be remembered, maybe it's a bit strange answer, but I would say I want to be remembered as a person who helped other people. This is a way how I want to be remembered, and this is a nice way. Of course, you cannot do it for everyone, but if you would say for more, you can do it for most of the people. You could be like, let's say, successful in that sense.
I understand. So you would like to be remembered by people as someone who helped and support them in some moment of their life, or someone that was actually in there for them.
Who both? I would say both.
And right now we are in a very difficult moment. Is worldwide. I'm just bringing a bit more of context to who is listening to us. So we are having layoffs since quarter 4 2022. We are already in 2025, so it's nearly 3 years already of layoffs. Is affecting everyone, and we have pretty much three generations. We have Generation Z, Y, and Generation X that are into the market. The Generation X, for some reason, they cannot just retire. They're still working. They're still very active, which is good. We have the Generation Y that is pretty much today the guys that are becoming the middle managers and also the senior managers, and they are carrying out with the legacy and also the companies. And we have the new generation now that is not only fresh grads, but also people that, start to shine. All of this economical burden has affected in a different way different people career. I'm not aware by the numbers. Once we have this kind of very different economy, it's the first time that we have economy that is becoming even more digital and in a way that is becoming smarter because now we have AI and we have other things that are going to be developed. So considering the whole thing that that is happening to you as well, that you understand, that you live it in, what would be the advice that you're going to give to the younger generation?
The first thing, we always need to be flexible, always learn. if you stop learning, so we will be out of the way immediately, especially now. As you mentioned, we have a digitalized world. Everything becomes so fast. Uh, for example, for software engineers who are listening to us, we let's focus on front end, for example. Every 3 months, something is changing in front end. They have a new framework, they have a new library. So if you don't learn things, you will be out of the market pretty fast. And if you are not flexible, you will not be able to adapt to the environment, to the new conditions. Like you mentioned, those economical conditions, they happen just like in a year. Everything changed in a year. We had a COVID, and after that, COVID affected everything. And just in a matter of year, everything started collapsing. So it's pretty fast for everything, even for economy, for the decision making. Everyone got affected. So, and if we are not flexible, we will not be able to adapt to that environment. And I don't believe this is a last calamity for us, what will affect us in the near future. I don't think life will be the same as before. And again, if we cannot adapt, how we can survive? We can see the good example in let's say in the animal world. The cockroach, they survive most of the things. Even even everyone will die, they will survive. They can survive the radiation and so on. I would say, the most flexible thing. And one of the things, I'm not really flexible person by myself, but for example, my wife, she's a yoga teacher, and she's pretty flexible. She helped me to see world from different perspective, not the way I see it, the kind of like algorithms, how we can define, measure things, how we can lead, but sometimes it's world just about our emotions, the way how we can just go out and talk to friends, having fun and so on. So we need to remember what we are not robots, especially in engineering. We need to remember what we are not robots, and we actually humans who keep living their lives. One of the friend of mine, she asked me like how to stay humane. She had like tons of experience in IT, and she's like, how to stay humane after everything what happened in my life, because life become like a framework. So I need to wake up in the morning, I need to do some certain things, go to the office, prepare there and so on. And it's like schedule everything, you have a plan for everything. You're kind of like a robot executing things in a good way. That's why actually LLMs, when she mentioned this one, I think like LLMs, I mean large language models, can replace us one day, because the way how we start thinking, kind of like we organize everything in some certain framework. And what is stopping AI to replace them in that certain way? Because before, like, everyone live in a different environments, people were completely different. But if you look at IT now, we can see what, for example, a lot of project managers, they are doing the same things in every company. Like software engineers, they're using the same frameworks, and everything become like standardized more and more. The more we become standardized, I think the more we are moving towards replacement by technologies like AI and etc. What we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast when I started, and you said in 2004 it was like nothing was in the market. We didn't have anything, and you need to be really flexible to understand how to learn things. What if you don't want to use PHP, you could learn Java, you can learn other languages, you could learn like any other things, but you didn't know how to do that, and no one knew how to cook it properly, how to develop the frameworks and so on. Everything's completely new. But standardization leads us to replacement, I would say.
Yes, I understand what you say, and this comes from the Industrial Revolution, if I'm not mistaken. Standardization can also be called commoditization. So once you have a commodity, you have a way of doing things, and that's the way, like Ford have done into the car industry. Then you don't need more creativity, you don't need more development, you don't need more improvement. You just execute. And I understand that this is when it comes in place machines to do that instead of people. The news are broadcasting every day fear and fear and fear and fear. But I believe that it will take time to have, let's say, an AI that would be able to replace a worker.
Disagree here. Like, what about Elon Musk with robots? So it's already integrated into the robot. So it kind of like you can understand what is happening in the physical world. Uh, but about replacement, actually, I don't think it will be really fast. As you mentioned, and I totally agree with you about the thinking. AI is not a thinker. I would say it's a prediction of what you want. When you're asking the question from AI, it's the most successful predictor. Let's say what you are getting the answer, but it's not a real answer. It's not a thinking. It's a prediction. But in the prediction, you become really good, and I think that is a big improvement. And for example, the recent Stargate project, when they raised around $500 billion, I think in the current technologies what we have, LLM itself, they're limited. Already. So we need to consider something else. Maybe it should be some other networks or something else. It should be something else because the LLM itself cannot achieve what we are discussing in the news and saying, okay, this is the thinker and so on. It's really good thing. It's a really good technology, and I do believe it's helping a lot of people now. It's speed up a lot of things. You don't need, like, for example, for documentation, you can write pretty fast and so on. But it's not what, let's say, it's not what we see it, and it's not how we see it in mass media.
Exactly. Thanks for what you said. And the topic is extremely exciting. It's really exciting because it unfolds a huge amount of possibilities. However, we need to understand that every time that it comes a trend, it may or may not unfold. We have a clear example that we talked before is about EVs. So EVs is a reality. Yes, it's not a trend anymore. And the industry is pretty much rolling back all of the EVs that they had done. And this is a consensus. It didn't work. They figure out why it didn't work. And the kind of technology about EVs we have since the 70s. So it's nothing actually new. The same about AI. What we have today in terms of AI was actually built in the 70s. However, we did not have computational power in that time to even do a nice try like we can do today.
Yeah, totally agree on that one. I do believe in the future it will be kind of. It's not just my thought, and me and my friend to discuss that topic. We believe it's like AI will become like a core of the company. For example, we have a documentation of the company, like pictures, anything like some plots and so on. So AI will be core of the company, and you can ask, for example, like what is the report of 2020? Give me some like numbers of employees, how many we had, or something, or how much we improved, and so on. So it will improve the business, improve the communication, but it will not be, let's say, replacement for many jobs. For example, it will not replace the software engineers. I do believe it will help them to become faster. They will write the software faster. They will understand things faster. Yeah, and for one of the things what you mentioned before, you asked me like, what is the advice for the young generation? It's they actually the way how they learn things. You can just learn it through IA now. You don't need anything for that part. You don't need a book. You can just, okay, I don't understand that term. Can you explain it to me, or give me a plan of studying based on the plan? Okay, I will study this one first. I move to the next step, and actually, again, I mentioned about the mentorship. I think the AI become kind of like a mentor for me because it's cool. You can ask anything. And for example, I'm really excited about economy now, how it's working. And I wanted to go to university to study it, but actually now I don't think it's a good idea to go there anymore. You can just ask, okay, what is it? I don't understand. Explain. What is it? Explain. It's so fast. And every time this mentor is with you, like, so you can ask whatever you want.
Yes, I like to hear that, and this also shows me that a lot of things is going to change. I mean, considering that we have, as we are imagining here, AI with good quality, the education and the future of education. You don't need to enroll anymore. That is one thing. Maybe when you are consulting or asking for a kind of information related to something you are working on, instead of asking to a specialist, you may ask the AI that have the base of the knowledge and all of those things. So It seems to me that we are going to become more solitary persons.
Why? Can you give me more details? Why do you think so?
Because imagine one day, since the time you wake up until the time we sleep, you are communicating with your agent. Now we are in the era of the agents, right? AI agents. So you are communicating with your agent that not only understands you because it's learning from you and training the network with you, but also because it's adapted to you. And you now feel a bit upset when you just reach out or talk to someone else that may talk in a way that you just don't like it for some reason, and you will actually move forward with the AI agent instead of interact with other people. We have a clear example right now about social networks. The generation alpha is the generation that they do not feel comfortable already talking to each other in person. They do that
Yeah.
through apps, which helps them a lot, of course. But this is a change that we are going to have. Maybe, maybe not.
That I agree. Actually, I'm watching a podcast of one Russian guy. He's an anthropologist. It's really interesting the way how he discusses things. And then one of the things what he recently mentioned, it's about how he's communicating with his students. He says he's saying like out of the phone they cannot communicate clearly. They don't know how to express the thoughts clearly. On the phone, yes, I can do it, but out of the phone, when I need to go somewhere in the say in the class and explain clearly why I have this thought and defend the idea, they are not capable of doing that. It's like it's really critical for our generation, not for generation, for humanity itself, because we are kind of moving towards bad thing, I would say, because we don't know how to do that. One of the ideas why brought us to why the thing brought us to this world is the brain, and brain was developing. And what he's worrying, for example, what some just things will disappear. Brain will stop developing, and generation by generation will become dumber. That is I think critical for the governments and what we need to consider, because I don't believe like social networks are actually bringing us any good, except for example not for except but you mentioned fear is not a good thing what we are getting from social networks and so on. So I would say this is not a good thing what we develop. And yeah, one of the things to mention here as well, the Facebook, they get the study what actually they can affect the political decision of people just giving different information. That is critical as well. Instead of getting our own opinion, our own decision, we are affected by social networking. This can become not our fault or not our decision.
Yes, that will be, as you mentioned before, that will be the adaptation we are going to pass through, right? Another example, I remember my parents in their generation, they got a job because they knew someone, because they knew some place and things like that. They knew what was happening outside. Pretty much grow on the streets. They feel very comfortable outside on the streets. My first job, and I believe that yours, you can talk more about that, was through internet already. Of course, you go there, you do the interview, all of that thing. However, you apply from home through a computer in the company website. You don't actually went there. I never went to the places that I interview with to just hand my CV. I actually applied online. And I don't remember any job that actually get by, talking to people on the streets, getting to know them like my parents used to do, because it was the way they do. And now the generation alpha is pretty much like this, because we already have all of this infrastructure already in place. Even when you are talking to a friend that maybe knows someone who is hiring or not, you're gonna hand your CV using maybe a chat.
Yeah, but at the same time, we are losing the value of communication. So when we communicate, when you mention your parents, when they grew up on the streets and they could see life, they could see the way how people communicate, learn from it a lot. Actually. I think they will get in the flexibility. For example, what I mentioned before, you really need to understand how to survive in a different environment. Sorry, one sec. How to survive in a different environment, and you become that flexible person. But nowadays, the generation alpha, it's getting crazy because people don't talk to each other. They don't see. I mean, of course they communicate, but they don't talk to each other personally. They don't see emotions of the people. They kind of like talking to the screen all the time. And of course, you can guess emotions based on the text and so on, but you are losing the, let's say, the humane part where you communicate and learn from other people. That is a critical thing. It's talking about AI again, about replacement. When we are getting like we are becoming like a robot, they're talking to each other. So what's the point? It can be robot talking to each other as well. So it's not a big difference. But for example, when I was a kid, people could play football outside. You could learn from one guy. After that, he figured out the new thing. Come next day, tell you like, "Hey, man, I learned this one. It's not from internet. I just learned it by myself, and I can share with you. Like, cool, look." And this one, I think we are losing that part. And again, it's like giving us the standardization. So imagine the people who are from that generation, they becoming more standardized as well because they're using the same social network, the same things and so on. So you kind of like have one place of learning things, but the street itself before will lead you to different examples. And you see, like you could meet guys from another district or another city, and they have completely different opinion. They have completely different view. You can argue with them, or you can understand them better, and you can learn again. You can. The most important, you can learn different things, and those variations will give you in the brain like different things, and you can create something cool out of it. But when the more we become standardized, I think the less inventions we would have.
So this brings us to understand we do need diversity. Without it, it's pretty much standardization. And standardization, as you mentioned, is done.
Yeah, diversity is actually a cool thing. But I mean, true diversity, not what is happening in the US. But when I learned about diversity first time in books, the original idea of diversity was really cool because we are taking people from different environments and they can bring experience. For example, you're from Brazil, so when I talk to you, your experience is different, my experience is different. We can learn from each other. That is a cool thing. But the more like let's say kids in Brazil and more kids in Russia using the same thing, so they will be like the same kids, not a big difference. Maybe they speak different languages, but the culture will become more same, more like a global thing, and they will not have own identity. But before that, it was like such a cool thing when you, for example, when you travel into Vietnam, when I had the experience when I traveled to Vietnam first time in 2015, you see completely different world. The way how things are done, the way how people communicate to each other, the way how people think about the decision making, it's so different. Sometimes you agree, sometimes you disagree, but you can learn a lot. And you can see, okay, people approach it differently. And actually, that experience, you can move it to your country and use it there. And diversity, regional diversity was like really cool idea. So we can get that different experience of people combined together and build something cooler. That is the true thing, I think. Actually, about the diversity, for example, both of us are working for Lazada and we had multicultural teams. People from everywhere in the world, from different countries. That was a cool environment because we could learn from each other. You were doing things differently, and the way like even you mentioned in your experience, you mentioned some e-commerce platform was different, and my experience was different, and we could discuss and learn it. Like, okay, I was doing this one in my own way, and okay, let me know how you do that. Yeah, but I think bit by bit we are losing that thing in the world. You're traveling now in Vietnam. What's the difference, let's say, between Ho Chi Minh City or Jakarta? So it's getting the same buildings, the same, let's say, gas stations, the same shops. It's getting more and more the same way. So I think one day you will travel to Vietnam and you will not see a big difference between, let's say, US and Vietnam. It will become the same. Global brands, global stuff, and so on. And that is sad to see because that was one of the things why travel was cool as well.
Yes, I understand what you mean. I hope we will keep seeing very exotic and different things. And back in that time, we worked with over 150 different nationalities.
Yeah, that was. I think in Lazada actually it was true diversity, not like not the current what is happening now, but in Lazada it was the way how we organize things. I think it was true diversity.
Yes, it was really good. And what has been the most impactful book, movie, or song on your life, and why?
Song about the song. It's not really a song, but on Spotify you can find it as a song. The name of the song "Sunscreen." It's not a real song, but it's like the guy is trying to share his experience through the song, say a lot of things. And one of the part of the song, I just want to read it. It's really interesting. He mentioned the most interesting people I know didn't know at 22 what they wanted to do their lives. Some of the most interesting 4 years old I know still don't. So, and through the song, he actually given a lot of different ideas how he see the life and how he experienced life, and he giving advices with this song, which is interesting to see. That's why for me that song is like kind of like affected my life. That's why I wanted to share it today. One of the things he mentioned in the song, for example, when you stay in California for a long time, you would become soft. So maybe you need to move to New York to become hard again. Of course, it's more like from US perspective, but if you extrapolate your experience on that song, it's really interesting, and you can learn from it as well. The book what I would mention is The Road Less Stupid. It's by the Cave Cunningham. He's it's more about the business side of the things, but through the whole book, he's giving you examples. Like, okay, I had this experience in my life, and how I don't want you to experience the same. How to avoid it. And he like the whole experience. He is going through this example how he built his business and how to avoid the same problems what he experienced. Um, and the last thing, the movie, it's Requiem for the Dream. I would not recommend to watch it, but one time, at least one time, you have to watch that movie. When I watched it first time, it's kind of like slap in the face. It's a wake up call. You can see a lot of things involved in the movie, like mass media, how they're affecting you, how how pharma industry affecting you, and so on. So it's actually kind of like good wake up call, but again, it's a one time movie. I think. Yeah.
Wow, very good. Thanks for all the sharing. Ilya, it was really good to talk to you. Really good to meet you again. We had a very good talk. I learned a lot from you today. And I would like to know if you have final thoughts.
Be flexible for everyone. We need to learn how to be flexible in this environment because I do believe in the future it will become much more faster. The things will start getting changes so fast and so on. And the more we learn how to do it, the better we become. And the thing there is stress. We need to overcome stress as well, or from flexibility actually, because our brain not developed to be flexible, but we need to do it if we want to survive in the future environment. That is important thing. So the final thought I would say, what I mentioned before, it's a few things what we need to consider in our life, and we need to really focus on those things. The first thing, what I already mentioned, is the flexibility. If we are not flexible, we cannot adapt to the current environment. I do believe in the future it will be more and more changes in our lives. It will become faster, and we are not flexible. We just cannot overcome it. And one of the things what is causing as a reaction to the flexibility is the stress. So we need to understand how to handle stress in our life, how to release the stress, find a way how we can tackle it, and so on.